I finally did it. I made a dashboard. And this dashboard, a little bit like Jarvis, it doesn't have the cool speaking or anything yet. Maybe I'll look into it. But now I can actually take action in just one place and call on Claude, call on Codex, and then call on my open source. So a little bit of background into this. Originally, I've been working on this for about a month, not really diving too much into it. I was just seeing what Codex would give. And what I've noticed with these tools, I said this in previous videos, but most of the time it does not want to go towards the AI solution. So if you give it your workflow and then you enhance this, most of the time it'll give you other solutions and then says, oh, build on AI after that, or build on the agents after that. So a lot of the times it doesn't point to that right away. So for a while I had just a dashboard that I could see how my projects are doing. And it wasn't very accurate. It didn't actually read where my files were. It was just a mess. And then I used Codex and the new goal where you give it a goal and it works to it. And eventually it did get me to a point where there was some functionality in it, but it still wasn't at the level. And then I used the newest Fable 5 when it came out. And it did it in about 30 minutes and gave me a fully functional dashboard that I can take action to, and it will actually update my file structure as well, which is nice, especially for YouTube. I have a pipeline and it pretty much works great with that, and it connects to the agents I had, or to the agents I created for the YouTube pipeline, and now it's seamless. There's still a little bit more tweaks. So using Fable, and then I think a week later, access got shut down. But the first thing I did with Fable when I woke up the morning of that it came out, it felt like a kid on Christmas morning. I asked it to evaluate all of my projects and give me some recommendations. And for me, it was probably the most blunt or most critical compared to the other AI models, but it had good reasoning. It was like, you work full time, you're about to change jobs, and you have 5 or 6 projects that have a ton of infrastructure behind them, that good ideas, but you're not actually producing output or going anywhere. And so it was like, cut 80% of that, let's just focus on 2 projects and then build on top of that, especially working full time. So it's pretty critical, and I was pretty shocked when I got it, but I loved using it. It was like the first time you use ChatGPT 5 or Claude 4.8. It's just like not. It's like the first time I use AI all over again. It felt completely different. It was more critical. The answers felt sharper, and it was not afraid to be critical on what I was saying. So it got shut down. And if you guys know anything about it, there's a couple of sides to the story. So Anthropic Fable version is supposed to be the safer version of Mythos that has much more safeguards in place. So if you looked up anything regarding biology, genetics, or cybersecurity, it would immediately downgrade you to Opus 4.8. A lot of people were complaining about that. And then the US government basically found out from the partner, which everybody's saying is Amazon right now, saying that you can jailbreak these models, which it's been pretty much known because you can do that with ChatGPT 5.5 and other models, but now it's a huge issue. So they pretty much shut down the ability to give foreigners access. And my take on that is it was an easy way for the government to shut down that model because Claude doesn't have a way to distinguish a foreigner from a US citizen in the system. When you log into Claude, you just give your name, your credit card, and email. That's all it really takes. So there's no easy way to distinguish it, so they had to shut it down. And on Anthropic's side, they believed that they were complying and they didn't believe they should have been shut down. And again, I'm just a person that reads everything about AI and then listens to a whole bunch of people discuss it who seem to be in the know. So take my opinion with a grain of salt. As far as Anthropic CEO, he's been asking for it. He's been publishing all these doom papers on how bad AI is going to affect the economy and that we have to put guardrails on it. So he should have expected this to come. But the main takeaway from this and that's going on. I think everybody's kind of pointing towards now, but your workflow cannot depend on one of these frontier models, especially if they come out with something new, because something like this can happen. They can shut it down, and then your workflow is pretty much dead in the water if it depends on that. And that could go the same with ChatGPT, Gemini, and Microsoft. The only one we've seen it so far with is Claude, but ChatGPT is about to come out with the same level of compute or same level as inference as Claude's Mythos. So we'll kind of have to see what goes on with that. A solution to that, and everybody's kind of pointing out, is using open source models, which that is a whole issue in itself because China's currently leading that race. But with open source models, you control it. It will never be as much compute or inference that some of the frontier models have, but you can do 90% of tasks that you normally would do using these open source models. I currently have one and I'm working on developing more and making it fine-tuned to exactly what I wanted to do. I already have it taking over workflows, so most of the time I just have it do the first draft, and then I have Claude or ChatGPT then kind of look over my work and then make some updates to it, which saves some tokens, and it makes it so you can interchange models. So you can use either Claude, you can use ChatGPT, Gemini. I'm not stuck on just Claude and the newest frontier model, and if I get restricted access, my workflow is still alive. One thing I would say about the open source model and something to watch out for is I've listened to a lot of different people speak about it, but they're saying that these open source models, anywhere from 3 to 6 months, and maybe even longer, will reach the level as Claude Mythos. And we've already seen the government crack down on Mythos and then Fable as well. So as you can imagine, if these open source models do reach that level, then possibly there'll be some kind of government interference and they'll step in. So I would definitely try now to get access to these open source models. But overall, it would be hard for these governments to actually regulate it because it's just a file you download. But that's something to keep in mind. Getting off the points, just had a lot to say, and I just been watching this go on, and I have a lot of opinions on it, and I wanted to give you guys my take on it. But again, I'm just a guy who listens, observes, reads everything about it, but take it with a grain of salt. I'm not in these companies. I don't know what's going on. So going back to the dashboard, I'm going to show you guys the first one I made with Codex, and then I will go into the one I use Fable to make. And the Fable one just connected everything together. It knew exactly what I wanted, and it just came out good. There was a few issues, but overall it was good. And then I'll go over why you need a dashboard or why you should even look into it if that is something you want to do. But before we get into the actual dashboard, I think knowing the backend and understanding why this is important would be a better start. So I'll show you guys the backend and what feeds into the dashboard. Just a brief overview. So if you look at my backend, you will see my AI workplace, and I have all different projects. I have a project status MD file that keeps track of everything that's going on. And recently I've been adding everything to my projects to keep memory. So anytime I make updates, it will automatically update a memory MD file and also a JSON file that the computer or that AI actually reads. And so what my issue was coming to is, so I have all these MD files. I have all this memory of where I'm at in each of them, but it's hard to kind of visualize that, and it becomes a pain once you start more and more projects and files to actually read them and or go into each one and read what's going on. So for example, if we go to my YouTube workflow, I have some agents that normally I would go into Codex and just type out my YouTube video, and then it would run it through these agents, and then they would actually create me these folders. And at first it would start in my potential videos, and then once I decided that I actually wanted to pursue it, then I would take it to my videos, And just to show you my videos folders, we have our pipeline, we have the actual script, the idea brief, script and demo brief. And another cool thing was for the assets, it actually creates me sample data in different documents to actually go along with the video. But I was having issues actually tracking where I was within these projects and what I needed to do next. Every day I would wake up and I'd be like, I have 1,000 different things going on. I don't know what's my next step. So I've been seeing the dashboards and I was like, I will build one that will actually allow me to work from there and make some changes. So that's the back end of it. Basically, it just has all my folder structures, and then we have our dashboard here, which it will actually take from everything that's going on in the AI workplace, depending on if it's active or not. I do have it's still in there if it's not active, but it will mostly focus on the active one. This dashboard's mostly just based on the YouTube pipeline and creating videos, because I would say that's pretty much the priority right now, especially with having a full-time job and doing that. So we'll go ahead and take a look at the first dashboard. So this was the first one I created using Codex and the goal, where it basically just worked to it. And overall, it wasn't bad. It just had a bunch of repeating trends. So you hit capture idea, it takes you to a different place. You hit refresh. The projects were kind of messy. It was just a bunch of different projects just with text files, and it just was kind of just a mess where I couldn't actually get any work done. I still found myself still going to my file structures and just working directly out of there. So once I got access to Fable, I was able to actually create a new command center, and it did pretty much all of this for me within just a prompt I gave it. It added at the bottom, which I thought was cool, is that the first one did not, the actual models I'm connected to. So you have Llama, which is my open source. You have the Claude Open AI API, Claude CLI, and then Codex CLI. So I could connect to any of those. And then I have the agent console over here that pretty much tracks which agents are working. And then I have this demo mode, which I probably should have turned on, but there's nothing really here that. And then I have a control K, which is a command bar where I can actually ask it to go to something. So go to projects, we'll go there. And then I can refresh it. And once I refresh it, it will actually look at the files and also go to my YouTube channel and YouTube and grab analytics directly from there. And then we have our YouTube pipeline. And so this is what I just showed you in that folder. You have pretty much a backlog. The prep is where the potential videos are. And so now I could just go in and actually read what it's about, see the next action, what status it is in. And then it also gives me a percentage on how ready it is based on when the scripts are ran and seeing what's in the folder compared to previously done videos. The cool part of this is I can move it from prep to production, and then that will update my file structure, so I'm not having to manually do that. And then I could also run different agents in there. So I have the prep agent, which pretty much prepares the demo script and everything along with that you saw previously. And then I have the demo assets, which then it creates me all the files that I want to do with the video. And then once I complete a video, I have the packaging, thumbnail and photo, and then generate thumbnails, which I pretty much all automated as I've continued to work on this YouTube pipeline. And then, so we have some ideas and gates. So one thing I have in my YouTube pipeline is I have it running pretty much every day with Codex to come up with ideas based on my niche and then keywords that have been searched based on my target audience. So with any of these, I can now see them without it actually creating a whole new folder, which previously I had it doing that, which was just a huge waste of tokens. But now I could use ideal capture, save generate brief, and then it will then go into my pipeline. So let's actually do one example. Let's try that one. That seems like a good one. And so now it's doing it, and you can see the agent running. It gives you an estimated for the context assembled, how much tokens there are for the context, and you can see my previous agent calls. And then we could go over to our metrics, which will go ahead and refresh, and it just shows how I'm doing in my top videos. I do want to add more on this, maybe some visualizations. And then we have trends. So these are trends that actually match my niche that I'm doing. And then we get over to system. We have our different engines, we have our different agents, and then we have action receipts, which is nice. It shows what was previously done. So what this has done, it has taken me from trying to work within the folders and file systems and put my work on one place. And as I go, if I do have new projects, I'll just directly add it to this. So the agent just finished up, and we can see that it actually took me there, and now I have it in backlog, and we just have the script just drafted. So the next step, we'll do a prep agent. So we'll do that, and I can actually choose the engine that I want to run. So the local model is probably not as smart as Claude API or any of these other models or the frontier models. So usually for this, I would use the Claude API, and then we could just hit run. Then it will start running, and it will actually call the agent to do that. And then going back to today, another thing that I didn't really discuss was you can generate briefs. Just have it go through everything in my folders and tell me what's next up for the day and what I should be working on. We have our in production now, this week's focus, all this stuff. So it's changed how I work, and I've become more efficient because now I could generate a brief when I get up in the morning and know what I need to do next, where my videos are in the stages. Not really one for building tools like this just for show. I'm more practical, and I always want something that is usable and makes sense. I'm sure you guys seen the videos of people running agents that do research 24/7, or they do certain tasks 24/7. Personally, I haven't found a use for that. I've just found these practical uses, and it took me a lot to eventually go over to dashboard because there was just so much hype around the dashboards that I was like, I couldn't really see a use for them, at least when I started. But now, once I actually have systems in place, I'm finding that it is extremely helpful just to have it in one place. So I would say, depending where you are in your journey, I would say first build your structure, build your agents, use Codex, use Claude Code, use Claude Desktop, and just build that out. And then once you get to a place where it feels hard to keep up, then build a dashboard. I wouldn't say just build a dashboard and then start adding up to it, because you need to know the pipeline that you're building and what would be good for it. And this is more personal. I personally haven't done it at work because I don't have access to Claude Desktop or Codex because our policies don't allow for it. So it's more personal. You could do something at work and actually have multiple team members be able to see it, but I'm not sure how that would work. And if that would be useful for that, maybe there's some other software that you can use or stack on top of. If you're in Google and Gemini, just use spreadsheets and then stack apps on top of that. The main thing I wanted to capture in this video was basically just showing you the main thing that I wanted to capture in this video was going over the new Fable 5 and what's currently going on to it or going on with it, and then my personal thoughts about it. And then showing you guys a dashboard that actually works with real workflows. It's not about the hype. Dashboards are great, and you can make one that looks like Jarvis. At the end of the day, it just depends on the actual workflow, and starting from there. Don't make one just because everybody else is and get on the hype, but use it for practical reasons. Build the infrastructure first and then do it. And hopefully Claude and the government will figure this out and we'll get access to Fable 5 again, because there was a lot of cool stuff that was coming out with it. And we have ChatGPT 5.6 on the horizon, which is exciting. Once people get these tools, we'll just start creating more and more awesome things. And so that's something to look forward to. Main takeaway, I've said this a lot, but don't rely on one single frontier model. Make your workflows so you can switch from models.